Is the new TEQ SSBK that's dropping for Golden Week tomorrow as bad as everyone says he is? Personally, I don't think so, but we're going to discuss that in this video, so let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and we're going to jump straight into it with his 220% leader skill. Straight away, we have some very good options to go on this team. The one thing you'll notice that this team does not have in all of these units that can be used on the 220 lead is they do not have a slot 1 unit, a slot 1 god that can tank these 4, 5, 6 million super attacks for next to nothing, like what we've had previously in Dokkan, because Dokkan just doesn't drop units that much, and we're currently in a new lead meta with 220 leads, so we don't really have too many slot 1 units as it is to deal with these ridiculous super attacks. Not to mention we have the likes of Jiren from Goku Story Edition in Universe Survival Saga of Red Zone that will lock units in slot 1. So even if there were slot 1 units to be used, there's a high chance a unit that you don't want to be locked in slot 1 could be locked, and that lock-in could easily ruin a run. But if we quickly take a look at some of the options, while this guy gets some flack, some slander, I don't understand why. Super Saiyan 2 Gohan is a very good damage dealer, solid defensively. I know there are units that are better than him defensively, but he's mainly here to do damage. Go Frieza, while they are memed and definitely deserve better as a slot 3 unit, they definitely work. And the same can be said for SSBE. While he definitely deserved better and should have been better, and especially as a Vegeta fanboy, I would have wanted him to have been better. He can work very well. Of course, he's just very dependent on RNG, and if those additionals do become super attacks. TEQ stock just continues to rise because of his domain enabling dodge, considering we're currently sitting in a dodge cancelling meta with Red Zone Blue Goku and Jiren from the Red Zone we just spoke about. One being for the entire fight, of course Jiren being towards the end, so at least against Jiren it's kind of easier to save his domain. That's kind of his main usage right now. Also doesn't link too badly with the new SSBK. Speaking of Jiren, this Jiren here could also get some use out of. Beast Gohan, probably one of the best anniversary units we've ever gotten, aging wise as well. Can also work really well on this team. Will take a bit more damage in slot 1 than he used to. Could also be locked out of slot 1 against Jiren, but his active skill after turn 5, turn 6 really does come in handy. Considering SSBK does go on reps, this unit does work really well. Again, provides support. SSBK can benefit from that. Also combined with TEQ's domain. A nice chunky support for SSBK and everyone else on the team, while also enabling dodge. But that unit does work really well. Unfortunately, another one that could suffer from being locked in slot 1. We do have the 2-year 6 EZAs. While they're not as good as, of course, when they are first released, they do still have some use. Unfortunately, again, we're in a dodge cancelling meta, so AGL UI does fall down the pecking order. But if you do decide to bring TEQ UI with you and you do re-enable dodge, AGL UI Goku is just doing AGL UI Goku type things, where he'll be dodging the majority and you'll be shocked when he doesn't. And another unit that will just benefit from running next to SSBK. And then I think in SSB he does still have some use, especially in slot 3. He can work really well. And the same with Blue Boys. While they are probably one of your last choices to be used on the team, if you can get lucky when it comes to lock-in and keep them out of the way, and you don't get lucky to have them locked in slot 1, etc., and you can kind of keep them safe in slot 3, if you do get lucky with additional supers like SSB Jeets, they can do a ton of damage, but also bulk themselves up quite a lot, where they're tanking the majority of normals. You'll just have to be lucky enough to keep them out of harm's way when it does come to super attacks. But of course, that is all dependent on RNG. And also their active skill is quite handy. Super EZA Gohan's another good choice. It's just a shame we don't have too many extreme class enemies in the game where he does get his dodge. Then scrolling down, these two, their EZA is one of the best in the game. I know against Goku they struggle because of, well, Goku from this unit isn't able to dodge Blue Goku in Red Zone. Once Gohan comes out, if you can protect them, or you do decide to use units, or use units, items, not units, items in general, you can keep Goku safe until you exchange into Gohan. Once Gohan's out, he's good. Against Jiren, I've used them. They work really, really well. These two are currently shown to be featured on Hits banner, so could be likely they do get an EZA in this celebration. Hopefully they do, because not only do they benefit on this team for a 220 lead, they also benefit from going on Hits 220 lead and helping him out with Universe 6 units. So fingers crossed they get an EZA, and fingers crossed they are very, very good, because they are long overdue in EZA. In terms of other units here that you could possibly use, we do kind of run out of options. Super Easy Cell is good but has no synergy here. This guy is also very good, works really well. The new SSBK, also a very good support and slot 3 unit. And while this guy, why not maybe perfectly suited to difficult content, if you dodge, you win or survive. If he doesn't, you die. Can't get more dodge or die than that Easy A Super Saiyan Kaioken unit, especially if you are bringing TEQ Goku. Now, in terms of SSBK's actual kit, now for just standalone SAFX, that 50% attack and defense is actually really nice. Especially when you factor in with the entrance animation, you have a guaranteed additional for 3 turns, his base super attack, and also a guaranteed additional for 1 or more tech orb obtained, which is always going to be guaranteed because he is his own tech orb changer. And then if you do trigger SSBK's revival, he'll also have a guaranteed additional. So once this runs out, you essentially will get it back from triggering his revival with some extra buffs. So no matter what, SSBK at all times will be super attacking at least 3 times guaranteed in 1 turn, which is really nice, especially to beef out his defense, especially coupled with that guard. He does tank normals in the game. I've seen it from 55% to rainbowed, which is kind of standard, which is great. And he also has the possibility to dodge, of course, in places where he can dodge. The things where it starts to get techie is where he sacrifices 5% HP per super attack he does. Now remember, SSBK is guaranteed to super attack 3 times in 1 turn. No chance, guaranteed. Now, while for damage output, especially with all the crit chance he has, that's great, that's nice. It's very much a catch-22. And that is because if you run 1 SSBK, that in 1 turn is at least 15% HP that you will lose from your total health, no matter whether it's sitting at 100%, 70%, 50, 40, 30, 20. That is 15% HP that SSBK will lose you before you even factor in any damage the enemy will do to you. It's a little bit of a detriment, but it's probably manageable, especially with him being his own tech orb changer, you picking up same type tech orbs, and then other same type orbs of other units. You could probably recoup a decent amount of that back where it never really becomes a problem. However, this is where the catch-22 starts to unfold. You kind of want SSBK to constantly be hurting himself because you want to drop your HP down to 70% or less. Now, maintaining that is a much more difficult thing to do. While it's easy to sit under it, you're going to continuously lose HP every time he super attacks, which is great because it keeps you under that threshold. It keeps SSBK doing even more damage, which he kind of needs. But then also you start to put yourself in a techier spot to where you have lower and lower health while dealing with enemies that can hit you with over million on normals, Jiren that locks, Jiren in the final phase, and Blue Goku in red zone that disable dodge, and then also super attacks that are doing 4, 5, maybe 6 million. So it's a very techie position to be in. Now, while that buff may not seem a lot on paper, when you combine everything together, it adds up. 200% defense, or attack and defense at the start of turn, with 12 or more key, 200% extra attack and defense, 100% extra attack with 70% HP or less, with 1 extra tech orb, an extra 100% attack, all while having all of this extra crit chance from 50% built in to then an extra 30 as long as the full rotation are Universe 7 units in the same turn, and after the revival an extra 20% crit chance. So you go anywhere from almost guaranteed crit to then guaranteed crit. So the damage ends up adding up, which is great. Because I've seen what Goku can do without you sitting below 70% HP. From 55% to rainbowed from these private showcase server videos, you're looking at anywhere from the first super attack doing 14 to 15 mil, to then potentially like 18 to 19 mil. And then by the time Goku's done, you're looking at anywhere to 19 to 20 mil, to 22.5 to just over 23, 24 mil. Which in total, especially with all that crit chance, it adds up. It's pretty nice. Now for an SSBK, is that a little low? I think so. Especially with how dangerous it is to constantly have your HP at 70% HP or less in this current meta of how hard enemies hit. And while SSBK is constantly draining you of your health. I feel like he should have been doing more damage before you drop down to that, and also during that. I feel like his numbers should have been a lot higher to pay off for the risk that you're taking to lose that HP that you just can't avoid with SSBK. So now take that and double it. Double it and give it to the next person. Because now imagine you're running dual SSBKs. That's 15% HP per SSBK. That's 30% HP either on the same turn or every other turn between the two units you are losing before you factor in the enemy hitting you. So this is why I think a lot of us, or at least this is why I think the damage he does is a little bit low. The damage he does while you are below 70% HP is quite impressive, because you go from over 20 mil, especially at Rainbow, to about 30 mil just over, which is great, especially with that crit chance. The amount of damage he's going to do, especially doing 30 mil in total, all while critting along the way as well 3 times, it's going to add up. It's a great amount of damage. But when you consider how much HP you will lose in total from not only one, but then dual SSBKs, it's a risky unit to run that can easily get you killed. And I've seen it several times in these private showcase videos before he drops tomorrow. He will get you killed numerous amount of times, not just because he can't dodge, but because he puts you in such a dire spot with such little HP. I feel like SSBK needed something to help balance that risk out. So not only would that have helped to help him do more damage, to be fair, I would have wanted him to do more damage anyway. It's SSBK, big number go boom, unga bunga type situation. But I feel like he needed something to balance his kit out to the point where he beefs himself up. Whether that means he had some base damage reduction in there, maybe built some damage reduction up from having lower HP, or gained more from having lower HP. So he had guard and like 30, 40, 50% damage reduction. I felt like that would have really gone a long way. Or even if he also stacked like Hit did. So by the time you're in like deep endurance fight, or maybe Festival of Battles, he's beefed up so much that you're kind of like, I mean, I'm losing HP, but SSBK won't get me killed because he can dodge. And then if he can't dodge, well, I've built his stats up so much because he has so many built-in additionals that, well, he's tanking double digits. So while you do want him sacrificing HP, is a big catch-22 with nothing to kind of act as a safety net to stop you from losing too much HP, or be worth you losing so much HP. Aside from the fact that yes, he will do more damage and you kind of want him around this threshold. Yes is a big difference. Yes, it will add up. Even prior to you dropping below that threshold, his numbers aren't that impressive, but in total, 3 super attacks, almost guaranteed, if not guaranteed crit. He does quite a bit of damage. Even more so, of course, when you drop below that threshold. But considering how much HP you can lose from one SSBK to then having 2, I feel like there needed to be a bit more to balance him out, as I said, from either some damage reduction build up or him stacking to kind of make it worth that more while of you losing so much HP and being a detriment to yourself and your own team. And then while not as much as 2 SSBKs, that super easy A blue Kaioken Goku also sacrifices HP on super attack as well. Just thankfully he doesn't super attack as many times as this guy does. But that is also some extra HP you'll be losing. Outside of that huge catch-22, which is a massive detriment, his kit's pretty solid. You know, a ton of crit, good dodge, or a good amount of dodge. Just unfortunately, we're in a dodge cancelling meta, so he didn't get released in the best spot, unless there's some non-dodge cancelling fights coming up very soon, like Red Zone, Supreme Magnificent Battle. Maybe that seriously serious fights that's dropping very soon. Maybe that's the content we're getting and there's no dodge cancelling in there. Then fine, fair enough. But we don't quite know just yet. But Dokkan can flip it on the dime. The orb changing, considering he only needs 1 orb to get all of these benefits, is great. As I said, I've seen him with and without this. It's definitely very noticeable, but again, just a massive catch-22. One thing he doesn't have a lot of is defense, but the defense he does make up from super attacking so many times with guard does mean he'll be tanking probably the majority of normals in the game fairly fine, fairly decently, which is kind of a standard. And that's kind of pretty much what a dodge or die unit says on the tin. They could probably tank normals, but then when it comes to super attacks, you need them to dodge. But again, slight problem there. We're currently in a dodge or die meta. So again, as long as there's content along the way or coming soon that isn't, you know, dodge cancelling, great. If not, yeah, this SSBK came at the wrong time with this type of kit. Then we have his revival skill buffs, which I'm not going to lie, I love the condition. The fact it doesn't have to be him is great. And the fact that you can run easier AJLUI in SSBE, another SSBK, and then also himself. That is 4 units in total that can hit their revival, and then this guy can get his buff. So it's going to be very easy to do that, and also all the benefits you get are pretty much his entrance animation buffs back. So the guard, the 170 defense, the guaranteed additional, and then the extra 20% crit chance and dodge chance is also very nice. Then I just want to say, once he standbys, love the art. Also, by the way, his animations are very nice. I do think both his and hits are a little bit wonky in places, not too much of a problem. My one qualm on animations, right, is when he uses his standby and he says ×10, that's fantastic. But why is there just dead silence until he says ×10 when in the anime he literally shouts the entire time and it's such a sick moment? Why did we leave that out, Dokkan? Please? That's one of my only gripes with the animations. Slight wonkiness in places, but I can live with that. Why was there silence that he says ×10? It's just really, really weird. But his standby, which it kind of feels like Dokkan really wants you to do ASAP, which you can do by turn 4, which is good. This, very nice. While he does sacrifice 10% HP instead of 5 now, he does have 1 less guaranteed additional, so he actually, I think, doesn't lose as much HP once you're in standby. So I don't actually mind that too much. You actually get to keep a bit more of your health, even though it does add up, especially if you're running 2 of them. In terms of the amount of damage he's doing here is pretty good. The orb change and the nuke is also very nice, especially when you consider the fact that he does get attack, crit chance, and dodge chance, all 10% of each orb obtained, which when he does decide to change the entire field to 23 TEQ orbs, it does mean he'll have guaranteed dodge, which is great, especially again when you can utilize it. He will put out some very good numbers, especially with the amount of crit chance he does have. But unfortunately, I've seen what he can do with that. You're not looking at like 60, 70, 80, 100 mil. Unfortunately, it's less than that, but it does kind of help for some big damage. But I do think that could have been stronger. And then the rest of this, I mean, being able to recover 70% HP on a revival is also very nice, especially when he's the one kind of helping you lose that HP. But that is great, kind of a good team protector ability to have. And then also his finish skill. With the amount of crit chance he does have, does do a ton of damage. I will give him that. Also, I do love the animation for his finish skill where he just hop backs up and just bangs hit in the jaw. Love that. But that does do quite a lot of damage, so I will give SSBK that. So, I mean, overall, with SSBK's kit, is it as bad as people make it out to be? Like, they make him seem terrible. No. However, I do think a lot of things are against him. Do I think he's as good as he could have been? No. Do I think a lot of our expectations, like usual of us Dokkan players, kind of killed the hype for the unit? Yes. That I will hold my hands up and admit. I think because we waited so long for a new one, specifically from this moment in Super, it has been since 2016 and 2017, and how we wanted him to be and how we painted him in his minds, and, you know, not hearing from Dokkan in weeks until literally a couple days before the banners drop, I feel like we overplayed our expectations, so that's our fault. Do I think he could have been better? Yes. So I'm not saying he's good. I'm not saying he's terrible. I think he's okay. I do think he could have been better. I think the main thing is just balancing out how strong they made him versus the danger you put yourself in for sacrificing so much HP from one SSBK and especially 2 to essentially buff himself, and how much of a dangerous catch-22 this part of his kit is. I feel like there needed to be more reward for you super attacking so many times and putting yourself in a dangerous spot in such difficult content than just he does a bit more damage. It should have been he does a bit more damage and also stacks to balance itself out, or maybe you just had more reward for dropping your HP down, such as some damage reduction, or maybe you had base damage reduction and got extra for doing this to essentially tank him out a bit more, so you're not having to worry about the enemy do too much damage against him and also your team in general, because SSBK is damaging you to make himself better. So I feel like there should have been a bit more trade-off than what we got, than just extra 100% attack and that's it. For him taking so much down of your own HP before the enemy hurts you, especially if enemies doing 4, 5, 6 million, and also currently sitting in a dodge cancelling meta when this unit is highly dependent on dodge, when all he can tank is normals. outside of him dodging. If he gets hit by a super attack, he's dead. So as I said, I do feel like there should have been more reward for the trade-off for losing so much HP of running not only 1, but especially 2. And even more if you run all 3 SSBKs on one team of dual tech ones and then the super easy A. Other than that, I think his lead's pretty strong. As I said, I think it just really hurts not having a slot 1 unit, and especially being in a dodge cancelling meta. And then not only that as well, I do think that he could have been just a bit stronger, considering his whole point is he's meant to be this uber strong unit for losing HP. And while he does get stronger, I feel like could have been a bit more consistent with that. So while I don't think he's terrible as everyone makes out, I definitely don't think he's best TUR. I definitely don't think he's top 3, top 5 maybe. I definitely don't think he's great or insane or anything. I think he's probably solid at best, but not as bad or as terrible as people make him out to be. But he is a massive flight risk on teams, and there just should have been more reward for running a unit with such risk. But you can let me know your thoughts down in the comments. What do you guys think? I'll see you in the next video, guys. Take care, have a great day, and push.